Okay, good evening, everybody. Today, for our interview, we have Maria Cervantes Aguirre. She is a CIP alumni, and I'll be conducting this interview with her in order to receive more insight on the richness and fullness that is CIP at the University of the Pacific. So, with this being said, would you like to introduce yourself, Maria?
Like you said, my name is Maria Cervantes Aguirre. I was a transfer student into UOP, into the CIP program from San Joaquin Delta College, and have been a lifelong resident of San Joaquin County.
Sounds awesome. So we're gonna get just straight to the interview. My first question would be, what is your background? For instance, well, you already mentioned where you were born and where you're from, but what's like your personal upbringing? And, just do you want to give us a general background, a more deep general background of who you are?
Okay, so my parents, my grandparents, they are from Mexico, and I was born in Arizona, but I pretty much grew up in a migrant, immigrant, first generation. I was born in Arizona. My father was stationed there in the Army. So our family, of course, like many migrants, have moved around quite a bit. My grandparents were up and down northern, southern, and central California, and settled here in the San Joaquin County area in probably the mid 40s. And the family kept coming back to this area, and this is kind of where the bulk of our family is. I attended all schools here in Stockton, elementary, junior high, and high school. And when I graduated from high school, I went to Delta College and then applied to UOP as a first generation student into the CIP program.
So you had a very long journey, just just based on what you're sharing with us right now. What were there any like specific obstacles or struggles that you had to overcome that made it a little bit difficult for you to move forward along with your family?
Yes, for sure. So when I was growing up in elementary school, I was categorized as ESL, English as a second language. Now they call it as a EL, English language learner.
Yes.
And so, of course, being pulled out of my class to get one-on-one help actually set me back, because I'd come back into the classroom and I'd miss instruction. And I always felt like I was running behind everybody else, and I had a strong accent, and it was just at that time there was still a lot of not much acceptance, not much diversity at the elementary school that I attended. It wasn't until junior high that I started to just see so much more diversity. But going into high school, my interests were going into architecture, wanted to take drafting, but I think back then the stereotype was from the counselor's standpoint that I should take child development instead of pursuing, my interests.
Mm-hmm. And and in pursuing your interests, were there any like specific people that geared you to, or inspired you to like just become more autonomous with what you wanted to pursue?
Definitely. So it was actually a high school teacher who, my psychology teacher, he actually posed so many questions for all of his students. And I mean, it really spoke to me about thinking about planning and thinking about the future. And he actually had invited the CIP director to come and present to our high school senior class, psychology class. And that was the first time I heard about CIP. So it was just the place, the perfect time. I really needed something like that. Although I did apply for the community involvement program while I was a senior in high school, but because I didn't have really any support or any guidance or any role models on how to do that, my application was incomplete. I didn't get in, and so I went to junior college. And at that time, I had a great counselor at Delta College, and he really encouraged me and believed in me and just gave me that extra nudge to believe in myself to try it again.
Awesome. And I'm so happy that you did answer the second part of my question, which is how did you become familiar with CIP? But that inspires me to ask the next one. How, since your application wasn't accepted because of the absence of community service, what did you do the second time around that you applied that enriched that part? Like what community service did you get involved in?
Actually, my application was just incomplete because I didn't know all the components. I was trying to do it together, do it all on my own. But
Okay.
actually had a lot of community service. My family, beginning with my aunt, was very involved with UFW, United
Mhm.
Farm Workers. They were really active in the 70s here, and mid 80s, and I followed her around, and I volunteered with her to do Amnesty International, working with Catholic Charities, Council for the Spanish Speaking, working in, I started to do gang peer prevention with the Concilio. And I think she really was one of the persons that introduced me just to volunteer and get involved in the community. And it just was second nature for me. I just really enjoyed it.
Wow, so that's very impressive, and thank you very much for sharing that much with us. Well, that would lead me to just my third question, which is when you did apply once again to the CIP and this time get accepted, and when you got accepted, what how was your campus life? How was your campus life within CIP and just overall within UOP?
My campus life, looking back on it, I really appreciate that the courses that I had were in small group settings, small class sizes. So I really was able to immerse myself in it and really get to know my professors. But I think back then, as a CIP student, and I think I've heard it from other CIP students that were initially in the earlier years, didn't really feel like you fit in on campus. It was like I'd get there and I'd get to my classes, and then there was like a disconnect. And now I'm happy to see how CIP has grown, how the student body of CIP has become so involved and has evolved with the different things that they're doing. As far as outreach and what they're doing on campus, and I just think it's for the better. But I definitely, for me, I think I felt um, like I didn't really belong there. Yeah.
Mm, awesome. Well, thank you for providing us with that insight. And just in case I missed it, what was your major? What was
My
your
major my major was sociology.
sociology? That's nice. So after being at CIP, so now I'll move on to my fourth question, which is after spending time with the CIP and UOP, how was your life after graduation? Like how just what did you venture into? Did you immediately practice your field? How was that experience?
So I really initially, of course, I think like many students, um, you come out and you're trying to get into your career, and many places they want you to have experience, and then they don't hire you because you don't have it. And our particular program didn't offer much internships, but I did eventually go into social work. Initially, I started with the Child Abuse Prevention Council, and being bilingual and native Spanish speaker, I was able to develop the first curriculum in Spanish for parenting for the Child Abuse Prevention Council.
Wow.
With the help of my dad. He was working for a social service agency in Santa Clara County. So it was very, very rewarding to be able to do that and to be able to also improve and work on my Spanish and also to work with families, providing Spanish-speaking parenting classes. And then after that, I actually went over to San Joaquin County and I became a social worker with Child Protective Services. And although it was challenging, it really was a complete and comprehensive field where I was able to really learn a lot of different aspects of the field. Court report writing, I never thought I would do something like that. You know, a lot of technical and legal and just even participating and understanding how the family court system works, doing investigations, case notes, just a big variety of things. Of course, working with the families and getting familiar with resources. And it was very rewarding, but also a pretty hard job to do given the nature of it, because of the types of cases that you see. But and now I've been in education for probably the last 20 plus years, specifically with a focus in working with students from preschool all the way to high school and special education. And I was doing small groups, one-on-one counseling. Now, currently, I'm a community liaison. I love that Unified School District, but I was in Stockton Unified for 10 years.
Wow. Well, that is really very dense and very amazing experience. Thank you for like just sharing and going into depth about, you know, briefly about each one. Right now you said that you're a liaison for the community, you said?
Yes.
That's great. And well, following this, what I do want to, with your experience and everything that you've encompassed all together throughout your educational journey and in your personal journey, I do want to ask you, is there any advice that you would give to current CIP students who are experiencing hard times during their semester?
Oh, for sure. I do have to add that when I went to UOP, I was living on my own, working at one time 3 jobs, didn't have transportation, didn't have many resources. And it was very challenging. And so, you know, sometimes I think we feel like we're all alone and we don't speak up or reach out. So definitely that's one thing I would recommend is to connect with others, reach out to people that might know about resources so that you know you can focus more on your studies and not have to be struggling with trying to manage so many factors that we have, you know, as students. It's not just about showing up for school and that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And but you know, there's housing, transportation, you know, having extra funds for, you know, expenses and things that come up. But you know, I think, like I said, I'm very happy to see and hear with CIP how they really have developed a more comprehensive program to provide those supports. But yeah, I think definitely it would be to reach out to others and ask for help.
Well, thank you very much for your inspiring words of advice. Well, before ending the interview, I do have one last question. And this is there any specific moment during CIP that you cherish or that just instantly comes to mind? Like any highlighting moment within that scholarship program? or moments? It doesn't have to narrow down to just one. It could
Yeah,
be.
I looking back, there's just so many different things that I found myself doing, experiences, and our meetings, and doing our community outreach. I think what I enjoyed the most was doing the community service, and especially under the umbrella of the community involvement program. It just gave me a lot of pride, for
That's
sure.
awesome. That's great. Is there any last words that you would like to share with us before concluding the interview?
So I do want to share something that I haven't already. I feel that all these challenges, experiences, and getting pushed in sometimes into things that don't necessarily feel like it's in your comfort zone, help you evolve, and then you realize, like, wow, I shouldn't second guess myself and think, yeah, I could do this. I can work on this and grow. And so as a result, recently, with the challenges with the pandemic and how we learned to do a lot of things like now, meetings through Zoom and whatnot, my father, like I said, he was born in Mexico, and he started a company and has been over 10 years, close to 10 years, and he works as with adults with disabilities, learning disabilities, in an independent living program. And he asked me some time ago to join his company, and that time I was like, well, how would we do this? He's 3 hours away, but because of all the things that we've learned during the pandemic, how we can do a lot from home and Zoom and whatnot. I am joining his company. I'm very excited about it. Learning more now. I'm venturing into the business aspect of running a company and what all it entails. But definitely, I feel like all the experience that I had with working with adults and children with special needs and disabilities, it's just going to enrich and help me to really better serve and give me that advantage that I'm familiar, working with individuals with those needs.
That is great. I do really appreciate you sharing your current projects, being able to share like from your background all the way to your academic journey and just what you're contemporarily doing right now, because you are an exemplification of like that growth never has any limitations. You're always learning, you're always making sure that everything you're learning along the way is applied to any current situation or any current projects that you're developing or are being developed throughout the years. And at the same time, it inspires us as current CIP students to see that there's no limitations even after graduating. Even after graduating, we can still venture and use our skills in ways that we probably don't even think of at the moment, but they can be very useful, and they can also be used, in your case, with our family, with developing a successful branch within our family. And I really do admire you sharing this and being very extensive and comprehensive, with the interview as well. So I really do appreciate this, Maria. Muchas gracias. I don't want to leave anything out, but is there any last or final thoughts?
No, well, I guess one thing maybe for the current students is just to spread the word about CIP and do outreach, and really try to bring in all the diverse cultures and in the community that we have. I just think we're more. It makes us stronger. It makes us more diverse, and I think we really are able to learn a lot from each other that way.
That sounds great, Maria. So now we'll conclude the interview and then we'll exchange any final thoughts. So give me 1 second.
Okay.